Salutations, folks. I'm Rick Y, and today is February 26, 2025. NBC just made it clear where they stand, and it isn't with quality journalism. Not long ago, I wasn't entirely shocked when the likes of CNN was all too quick to remove folks like Jim Acosta when placing people like Scott Jennings into the limelight. But this week, NBC and others said, "Hold my beer," as they sliced and diced some of the best journalists on their roster for more, let's say, Caucasian influence. Personally, this actually hit me hard because many of them, as I will mention here in a bit, have been tremendously influential in my own desires to get into this field. So, if you dig news, history, or humorous American hogwash, make sure to drop a blue heart in that comment section and get the discussion going. I initially found out that there had been some major shifts in the media landscape when I saw that one of my favorite people on primetime was canceled. Joy Reid was the host of The Readout since 2020. She lasted almost 5 years. Every time I saw her pop up in my news platforms, I would immediately jump on it because her insight into power structures and their disproportionate control over people of color and everyone in the bottom economic rungs were deep and thought-provoking. I learned a lot from her program, not just from her delivery, but from her wisdom as a person who has lived a life that I can't, as a white male, even imagine. What her program did for me was allow me to recognize the more subtle racial discrepancies that we still face as a country. Finding out that her show had been cut unceremoniously was a huge kick to the gut because it was a platform we could all learn a lot more from as a society and individuals. But she wasn't the only one. After over a decade on air, Lester Holt was also let go of his position at NBC's Nightly News. This was another talented presenter and informed documentarian who was often at the spear tip of many political stories and controversies. Luckily, he has found a place as the full-time anchor for Dateline. Another fantastic journalist, Alex Wagner, was also removed from her position, as well as Katie Phang, who had previously been a prosecutor in Miami-Dade State's Attorney's Office. This was actually an awesome source because she was able to break down legal analysis in layman's terms, which can be a tricky role for a lot of people. Both women carried out their incredibly noteworthy careers with pride and grace. Along with them, there was the cancellation of Jose Diaz-Balart and Jonathan Capehart. Not long ago, Mehdi Hasan voiced concerns over the American responsibility in Gaza, and shortly thereafter, also unceremoniously removed from NBC programming. It would seem the only talent left there now is Rachel Maddow, an oracle of our time, Lawrence O'Donnell's deep dives, and Nicole Wallace's straightforward reporting. Not only does this seemingly present an unethical dilemma wherein major voices for journalism are silenced, the network is blaming viewership and ratings declines. But other notable stars who've truly jumped the shark when it comes to their own ratings are Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. In November alone, these two took a 40% decline in viewership and 46% decrease in their key demographics, yet no rearrangement of their roles at the network. Luckily for them, they have an audience that seems to have clawed their way back, regardless of how many underhand remarks they received by the morning news darlings. I'm still excited to see how their little meeting at Mar-a-Lago went, but that's still under lock and key. They haven't changed their delivery, and they're lucky they can track the commentators on their show because I think, honestly, their guests draw the most views. I'm not entirely sure how they would go by themselves. Hear me when I say that corporate media is only concerned with views and ratings. The money drives their motivations, and it's difficult not to be lectured or fluffed up by unnecessary distractions. Frankly, it's clear that there is an audience that MSNBC is trying to attract. Consider this. The final episode of The Readout attracted enough viewers that it placed second in MSNBC's demographic lineup. However, on average, The Readout was broadcast and watched by 877,000 viewers. Meanwhile, Laura Ingram's show in the same time slot was averaging around 3.4 million viewers. The evidence is clear. There's a massive amount of conservatism in the country, and the commercial media outlets see that they primarily navigate towards television news outlets. And because of this, the angry, ill-informed blonde white lady is reaching more voters than a deeply intelligent black woman who did God's work in voicing opposition to obvious unethical and racist behavior by the powers that be. I can't draw any conclusions on how that decision was made by NBC, but I can say that it is obvious the shuffle of anchors is being done so not for the favor of informing those that need it, but how many entertained eyeballs can be captivated. Enraging people is captivating, I get it, but the likes of Joe Scarborough helped fan flames when it came to things like Gaza, which is arguably the biggest reasons the Democrats lost. And instead of accurately calling out Israel in the IDF, he spent his mornings literally screaming about student protesters. He gave credence to the idea that supporting the people who were being actively murdered in their homes would be an act of anti-Semitism. Yet, here we are. The most two controversial anchors who wouldn't have a show without their guests and capitulate to people even after they've called them authoritarian fascists are kept on air, instead those who would actually inform their audience. I can only speculate, but this shakeup really seems to have a common denominator, and it seems to be more along the lines of Anglo-Saxon lines than a desire to provide hard-hitting facts that can help better position our society on the global Overton window. Again, I can't tell you what the motivation was without directly asking the heads over at the studios, and that's not going to happen. But I can say that my trust in their leadership was already shaken in November. Now, I don't even know if I can respect NBC as any more legitimate than the garbage commentary on Fox News. This kind of dramatic editorialization is exactly why we have a voter base more attracted to wedge issues than reality. When money drives the mission, truth becomes a secondary priority. If I were you, I would consider checking out independent media, like Political Voices Network with Stephanie Miller and Glenn Kirschner's YouTube. And some of my personal favorites, MeidasTouch and Jesse Dollemore. Final thought, though. Be a part of the solution. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about real, independent news. So let's keep building this space for honest discussion. Like, subscribe, and comment below if you want to be a part of this conversation. One that's actually based in truth, not ratings. We've got a big hill to climb, but we aren't going to do it disorganized and uninformed. Stay sharp, stay informed, and keep questioning everything. Y'all come back now. Be here.